Good evening, everyone. Welcome in. We're hosting a session of the Eagle Family Webinar Series this evening. We're so glad you're here. My name is Samantha Caruth. I'm the Associate Director for Family Engagement here at AU. And I'm so excited that we're able to bring you a session that we had originally planned in February, but we had to shift scheduling a bit. And it's even better time now because it's April and it's Earth Month. So we're really excited that you can join us tonight if you're on the East Coast, or maybe a little bit earlier if you're on a different time zone. I'd love to say welcome, settle in, and let's dive into all things sustainability here at AU. I'm joined by one of my amazing colleagues and one of our amazing students, and I'm just going to pause here and hand it right off to them.
Thank you, Samantha. So I'm really excited to share some sustainability information with everyone today. I'm Megan Litke, Director of Sustainability at AU. Please feel free to drop questions as you have them in the chat throughout the session, and we'll kick things off. So I've been at AU for 10 and a half years, working in sustainability the entire time. I've spent my entire career in higher education before I entered the world of higher ed sustainability. I was an accountant, but I did that at higher ed too, working on grant management and budgeting. And so I've been in the higher ed sphere for more than 20 years, with the last almost 15 of them in higher ed sustainability. I will let Brinley introduce herself now.
Hi, everybody. I'm Brinley. I'm from Texas. In the sustainability office, I started as a volunteer my first year here after transferring from a community college in Texas. And then I've been working as an intern for almost 2 complete years now, and I mostly work in the EcoRep program as an EcoRep leader. And as a scholar and a student, I'm studying SIS for my major and education studies for my minor. So I'm studying education and the peace process. I also work for the AU Experience program for the AUX class that every freshman takes, and I'm a senior peer facilitator, so I also serve as a mentor for the other peer facilitators in that class, so kind of a TA position.
So a little background on the Office of Sustainability. We were created back in 2009 when former President Kerwin originally signed something that's now called the Climate Commitment. It's through an organization called Second Nature. And at that time, our students really pushed the university to sign on to this commitment, along with a few hundred other universities around the country, to say we're going to work on climate on our campuses and figure out what that's going to look like for us. It sort of recognized that universities could play a unique role in addressing sustainability issues through both the direct management of our space. Collectively, universities own a lot of land, we own a lot of buildings. We can change the way we operate them, build them, manage them to decrease our direct environmental footprint. And then we also have the opportunity to work with students who are going to go into all different kinds of careers. And our hope is that no matter what career you're going into, you can leave universities with an understanding of how your career path intersects with sustainability. Our office now has 3 full-time staff, myself, and then we have a communications manager. We have a sustainability analyst as well, who spends time gathering data from around the university, using that data to figure out where we have opportunities to do more or where we have opportunities to celebrate something we've accomplished. We work really closely with the Zero Waste office on campus as well, which also has 3 full-time staff. Within the org structure for the university, we're located within the finance division. So that's also where places like facilities and planning are located. So we're able to work really closely with them. And our main objective in the office is to oversee the implementation of our sustainability plan, and then also update that plan as is needed over the years. And the implementation process involves partnering with offices across the campus, not just the ones that are in the finance division. We work with people like Samantha to see how we can share this information with more people, engage more of our students and our staff and our faculty in a variety of different ways in these programs. So we have engagement programs that Brynlee will talk about for students. We also have green office programs for our faculty and staff to engage directly with our office. And the green office program is really designed for offices to identify their unique opportunities to decrease our environmental footprint on campus or expand information around it, and take advantage of that. And then we also have a green teaching program for our faculty that's run through the Center for Teaching, Research, and Learning. And that's really an opportunity for faculty to earn recognition for how they're integrating sustainability into the way they teach, not necessarily what they teach. You could be teaching anything, but you could teach it with thoughtful techniques that are going to be environmentally responsible. We've earned a lot of recognitions over the course of the years for our work. We've been recognized as a Tree Campus USA annually since 2009. We generally accept that recognition every year at our Campus Beautification Day, which is actually happening next week. And that's an opportunity on campus for everyone, staff, faculty, students, neighbors from campus, alumni come. Every group on campus is invited to join our grounds team to help plant new trees and flowers, spread mulch, and just help to make sure the campus is beautiful as we enter the spring season. There's a picnic afterwards for everybody who participates, a raffle, and it's always a lot of fun. We're a USGBC member university, so USGBC is the US Green Building Council. It is the organization that is responsible for LEED, which is the certification that we use for our green buildings on campus. We are a signatory to the carbon commitment, which is the name for the commitment that we have to climate change that we've had for since 2009. It's been renamed. We re-signed it in 2016. And we're also a bicycle-friendly university, which is recognized by the League of American Bicyclists. We were the first university in the country to achieve carbon neutrality, and we are currently ranked second on Princeton Review's Green College Honor Roll. So it's all really exciting to see the work that happens across our campus get recognized by a wide array of organizations. Within our office, we have focused on a few main steps that really guide our thinking around sustainability. This 3-step process was established when we first began our very first sustainability plan after signing the commitment in 2009. And it just says that we're going to first figure out how we can reduce our environmental impact across the board by as much as possible. Then how can we bring renewables into the equation to green the energy that we are using? And then finally, for pieces of our emissions that are difficult to reduce or don't have good technological alternatives at this time, turning to offsets that can help us to balance out that while we continue to focus on that step 1, reduce. So even now that we're carbon neutral, focusing on reduction and expanding green power are still our first priorities. So when we talk about reducing our environmental footprint, we look at how we manage our buildings, how we build them. We also look at behavior change. How can we talk to our staff and faculty and students on campus to help them understand the impact that they can have and ways that they can help us reduce our emissions across the board. For green power, we use renewable energy credits. We also have 2,500 solar panels on site and 250,000 solar panels in North Carolina. I'll talk more about that in a minute. And then we use offsets, and the offsets that we select to use for the university, we try to find ones that strategically align with the sources of emissions so that we can use them as a teaching tool. And we look for ones that have co-benefits. So they aren't just an offset to check off an offset box. We try to find ones that are either going to have really useful teaching opportunities within them or benefits to local communities as well. So for new construction, Our standard on campus is LEED Gold. LEED is a checklist of all different things that you could do during the design and construction phase of a building to make that building more environmentally friendly. The higher the number of items that you are able to incorporate into your building, then the higher level of LEED certification you can earn. So a building can be certified silver, gold, or platinum. Our standard on campus is gold, SIS, which is in the where Brynlee spends a lot of her time, and is in the upper left-hand corner of the screen or on the slide. That was our first LEED building, completed back around 2010, or earned its LEED certification around 2010. And that building features solar panels on the roof. It was really our first installation of LED lights on campus. The entire parking garage is lit by LEDs. There's a surprise green roof on the building as well, and the planter that you see in the foreground of that picture is actually on the roof of the parking garage, because the parking garage is bigger than the above ground footprint of the building. So if you've walked by that planter when you're visiting campus, you didn't even know that you walked across a green roof, but you did. Then McKinley is another one of our LEED buildings on campus. This one is pretty unique because it's our second oldest building on campus, but when it underwent a major renovation around 2014, it earned LEED Gold certification for new construction as well. This building, because it was an existing building, was able to utilize a point that is usually not available for new construction, and that's building reuse. So you can see towards the right of that picture, there's a tower, and that's where the stairwell in the building is. That tower includes some of those marble blocks that are also in the original portion of the building, and that's because when they took down the back wall to build the addition, they saved those and incorporated them into the new structure. So we were able to reduce emissions by not having to bring new materials to campus and reuse the materials that were already there. Finally, down at the bottom is Hall of Science. That's our newest LEED building for now. This building earned certification in 2020, and it has some, if you've been inside this building, you might have noticed it has no ceiling. So you're able to see the pipes right above your head. So it earns points also by just reducing the amount of materials that are used in the building by not having that ceiling. It's also a cool architectural feature where you can just see everything. Yeah, this building also has a lot of plantings around it that are designed to absorb a lot of the runoff, not just from the site itself, but also from the roads that are adjacent to that site. So it's able to absorb a lot of rainwater during rain events. We have undergone a lot of energy projects that are pretty major around our campus. The first picture all the way to the left that shows some pipes is a project that was completed around 2019, 2020. It came online. And this is when we dug up our entire campus bit by bit and replaced all of the pipes that used to carry steam from our steam plant to buildings to provide heating. And now we use a low temp hot water system. So these pipes now carry that low temp water. It takes a lot less energy to make low temp hot water than it does steam. So this has allowed us to transform the way that we're heating and cooling our buildings across campus and use a lot less energy in the process. The middle picture shows some solar panels that we have on campus. I mentioned we have 2,500 solar panels on our campus. They're on the roofs of about 10 buildings. And Brynlee, do you want to share what percentage of our electricity our solar panels on site provide?
A whopping 1%.
Yeah, it's kind of surprising, but it's just 1% of our electricity is met by the solar that we have on site right now. So recognizing that even if we covered as much of campus as we possibly could with solar, we just don't have enough square footage to put solar panels to meet 100% of our demand. We knew we needed to look bigger. We needed to figure out what else we could do. So we partnered with our friends at George Washington University, who also have the added challenge of some of their buildings are so tall that if they add solar panels, they'll exceed the DC height limit. So they also needed to look bigger and outside. And so we ended up partnering with them to build 3 solar farms in North Carolina. And this is a photo of one of them. So the 3 solar farms collectively have about 250,000 solar panels, and they provide each of the 3 partners. So it's George Washington University Hospital, and then American University. We each get about 50% of our electricity from those panels. Now we can't guarantee that the electrons that are produced by those panels make their way to our campus, but these panels are within our electric grid. So we are adding green electricity to our local electric grid, and we retain the rights to the renewables. So nobody else can claim that they're using the renewables there, because anytime you install a solar panel or any form of renewable, you're also creating something called a renewable energy credit. And you can sell that credit and then not take credit for the electricity or the green electricity you're producing, and sell that right to somebody else, or you can retain that right. And so for our solar farms in North Carolina, we retain that right, so nobody else can claim that they're using that green power. This is a rendering of what will be our newest building on campus in just a few short months. This is the Meltzer Center for Athletic Performance that's under construction now. This will be our greenest building ever. This will be our first platinum building, our first LEED Platinum building, and also it's designed to be our first net zero building. So a net zero building is a building that produces as much energy as it uses over the course of a year, meaning that it's going to produce all the energy it needs right on site. We say over the course of a year just because it does have a lot of solar panels on it, and we know sometimes you have a cloudy day. So it just has to balance out over the course of the year that it's going to produce as much energy as it uses. This building will add 1,300 additional solar panels to our campus, and it is also our first use of geothermal power on campus. So the picture on the right shows the messiest thing I've ever seen constructed. And we dug 85 of these wells. The wells are 500 feet deep. For comparison, the Washington Monument is 550 feet tall. So these are incredibly deep wells. And if you go down 500 feet into the earth, in DC, the temperature is a very stable 59 degrees all year. So we're able to use this system to pull up cool temperatures in the summer and deposit heat down into the earth and cool our building using the coolness that's coming out of the earth, and then do the reverse in the winter. When it's colder above ground than 59 degrees, we can pull up warmth from in the earth and deposit the cold energy into the earth from the building. So we're able to use this for heating and cooling year round. And then the solar on the building and the adjacent building as well will provide electricity to this space. This is really exciting. It's a huge step forward for what we're doing. And my hope is that we'll be able to take this first example of geothermal on campus and expand it and begin to use this in more sites across our campus. One of the challenges with building in DC below ground is just that there's a lot of stuff below ground. So finding sites where we can dig down 500 feet, like now that we've shown that we can do that and it works, we'll probably be able to do it more as we look into the future. So I'm really excited. This project should be next spring. And then our entire campus is an arboretum. So our entire 84-acre campus is a certified level 2 arboretum. We have more than 5,000 trees on our campus, representing more than 500 species. This picture in the middle is a scarlet oak that's located on our quad. It's the oldest tree on campus, and we know that because we have a photo of Hearst, which is our oldest building under construction, with a sapling in the foreground of the photo. So our Arboretum manager, Mike Mastroda, has also become sort of a de facto historian and archivist, and he has an amazing collection of photos from the early days of American University. And he juxtaposes them next to photos of like beautiful places that they've created through their work with the Arboretum around our campus. It's just a really great example of how, an Arboretum can be used to make our campus beautiful, but it's also the site of so many features that make our campus more sustainable. Having these oaks that line the main quad absorb a lot of stormwater during rain events. In the picture all the way to the right, you see a wooden barrel, and that's actually an upcycled hot tub that we use as a rain barrel. So that collects rain off of the roof of McCabe, and then our grounds crew is able to use that to water the plants that are around that building when they need a little extra water. And then the other picture all the way to the left shows the garden that's in front of the library on campus as well, which is just a lovely calming space to sit and spend some time outside. I hear from students and staff and faculty as well that I think most of us probably have our favorite outdoor space to go and have some quiet and just sit in nature and relax a little bit. There's a ton of options, so there's something for everyone if you wander around campus and find a spot. I think the Arboretum provides a lot of benefit to all of us. So some of the things that are featured in the Arboretum that help us out with a lot of other things are stormwater management features. So DC really has to pay attention to our stormwater across the board. DC has something called a combined sewage overflow system. A lot of old cities, certainly in the US, have this. At the time it was constructed, it was fine. There were a lot fewer people in DC. We didn't have as many buildings, so there was, more natural space to absorb stormwater. But at the end of the day, our household sewage and our stormwater systems go into the same pipe, and that system was designed to just overflow into local waterways when it was overwhelmed. And so as modern times came to be, the system was overwhelmed more and more often, to the point where it overflowed every time we had a major rain event, which happens about every 2 weeks in DC. I mean, sorry, twice every week in DC. So it happens pretty regularly. And so to deal with this, the district has really incentivized landowners to manage stormwater on site. So AU actually gets a credit on our water bill for every feature we add on campus that helps to capture some of this water. Homeowners in DC get the same credit. And then on top of that, DC has built these massive, like metro-sized tunnels underground to capture that overflow during stormwater events, and then divert it back to the treatment facility when it's not raining anymore and there's capacity for it. So we're seeing these overflow events happen less and less frequently, which is great. The Potomac and the Anacostia are both on their way to being swimmable and fishable. So these are some examples of some ways that we capture rainwater on campus. The first is a green roof on Kogod. Kogod is a lot older than this green roof, but the green roof is now about 17 or 18 years old. It's been around for a long time. It was originally installed with a grant from the district government, and students and faculty and staff all worked together to plant it originally. That green roof is still going strong. It hasn't needed to be replaced. Green roofs actually help extend the life of roofs as well, so less maintenance is required on the actual roof after you install a rooftop garden, which I think is counterintuitive. Like, you think you might stick some plants up there and it needs a lot more attention, but it's really the reverse. This middle picture is a picture of a bioswale basin. So these are designed to slow down rainwater as it runs through them so that the plants in there are able to absorb them. It pre-treats any water that does ultimately run into a drain and go into the stormwater system, because it slows it down, so sediment is able to sink out of it as it slows. And then we have a lot of plants in there that are going to absorb a lot of that water as well. The last picture is of a rain garden. That's the president's office building that you see in the background. So if you walked from Katzen onto campus during your very first visit, you walked right past this. And so this helps to capture any runoff that comes down from the hill that's right there, like next to where Kogod is. We also have permeable pavers on our campus that help to capture rainwater and like allow it to seep back into the ground. For transportation, we have our very popular UPass program. We have bike fixing stations on campus. We have our shuttle that helps to get people to our closest metro station. We have electric vehicle charging and Capital bike share stations on campus as well for students to use that to get to other parts of the city. And so all of these are designed to help us decrease the amount of single-use vehicles that are traveling around our campus and make sure that students who are coming to campus don't need their own vehicle at all. There are tons of other options for getting around DC that don't rely on a car. And the final thing I'll talk about before I turn it over to Brinley is zero waste. So this has been a big part of our sustainability initiative from the very beginning. We were one of the first universities in the country to offer campus-wide composting to our whole population. So we have this 3-bin system that you see over on the right in all of our buildings. This year, we changed all of our bins. We added new signage, and we've had a huge improvement in the amount of recycling and compost that we're getting across the board. This middle picture is an example of compost collection. Our student group, the compost crew who works with our zero waste team, collect all the compost from around campus and work with the offices around campus who are producing that, the vendors, to make sure it's all captured. All of our compost from across campus goes to an offsite industrial scale compost facility. So we're able to compost things on campus that you wouldn't be able to in a backyard compost bin. We can accept things like meat, oils, compostable plastics that, the cups that say compostable on them. And then this is Claude helping us out at an event, collecting compostables and recyclables from an event on the quad. We have a lot of opportunities to partner with offices around campus to make sure that we're helping them to do whatever they can to green events, and this is a big part of it. So I will turn it over to you now, Brinley.
Thank you. So actually the compost facility that you just mentioned, in the picture in the far left, that was actually a really fun field trip that we got to take to the compost facility to sort through a week's worth of AU compost and see what we had. We found some pretty crazy things in there. One of my peers is holding a pair of slides, so that was a little funny. Of course, my cat's gonna meow the second I unmute. That's perfect. But I joined the EcoRep program as a volunteer during my first year. I'm now finishing up my second year as an intern in the Office of Sustainability, and will hopefully finish out my time at AU as an intern, which would be super fun. My main responsibility is to help organize and lead the EcoRep program, and these are a couple of pictures just from my experience. The one on the far right is from this year's convocation, where all the freshmen got to go hear the president talk, touch the claw of the eagle up front, the whole thing. The second from the right is me composting in our dining hall TDR, which we just redid. So there was a whole new system we got to learn. It was super fun. And then I'll talk more about this later, but the second one from the left is the Student Sustainability Leadership Summit that we had just last week, I think, at George Washington. So a little bit about the EcoRep program. The EcoRep program is a volunteer initiative through the Office of Sustainability that helps us spread the education, because as Megan mentioned earlier, there are only 3 full-time staff in the office. And then right now we have like 4 students in the office. So we obviously cannot tell the entire campus how the systems work. So what the EcoRep program does is we have, in my time, it's gone between like 35 and 50-ish student volunteers who take time out of their day to compost in the dining hall, promote the Eco Pledge, which is just an easy little pledge where you say you're gonna do 10 super small actions, like carry a reusable water bottle or a tote bag, something like that. And you get a set of reusable utensils whenever you complete it. And it helps shape the campus culture. And overall, whenever we give all this information to this smaller group of students, now they're going across campus, sharing it with their friends, sharing it on their social medias, and just kind of creating that sustainable campus culture that we look for. We open up signups at the beginning of each semester so that students who are going abroad or transferring in have an opportunity to join. And we also welcome anyone to any of our events, even whenever and the EcoReps kind of help lead, and then we can have people who maybe haven't had experience with it come and just learn. So these are some of the experiences that I've had, at least my favorite ones that really shape that culture. Sorry. This first picture is an e-waste drive where we set up outside and collect maybe printers. I think the top right there is a projector. We've collected some mini fridges, all sorts of things that can't really be recycled or disposed of easily, and we can keep them out of the landfill and collect them and give them to our zero waste team who can take care of that. I'm going to skip Project Move Out and come back to it because that's a big deal. We have our fun little seasonal events. This is one of our EcoReps who we made scarecrows out of recycled cardboard that the zero waste team had. And then we also partnered with Wonk Trade, which is our on-campus trade shop where you can go in with maybe like 3 t-shirts you never wear or like a winter coat that you realized you didn't need. And you can leave with the same number of items you went in with. It doesn't have to be like 3 t-shirts for 3 t-shirts. I've gone in with a couple t-shirts and left with some jeans, a nice pair of platform shoes, and a nice coat, which can be really good with like the changing weather. We have the DMV Sustainability Summit, which is where we partner with the other schools in DC, and we all get together, and all of the students who work in sustainability leadership or just interested in it get a chance to talk to each other, see what other students are doing, what's working, what's not working, what we enjoy, what we don't enjoy. We just learned about a super cool like festival kind of event where people encourage their universities to divest, which our American University already did, but they said we can still go to the party even though they already did it. So that'll be fun. We have the Race to Zero Waste sustainability game. So right now we actually just finished this year's Campus Race to Zero Waste, which is where we compete with other colleges and universities across the US and Canada to divert all of our waste, as much of our waste as we can, out of the landfill and into recycling, compost, or just gone. No more single-use plastics, so going to like water bottles, reusable utensils, things like that. And we actually work with athletics to have a sustainability awareness game, which is super fun. We play a fun game on the court during halftime. We all of the other sustainability groups that I'll talk about later go, and we all get to see each other. We have stickers and t-shirts, and Claude, the mascot's there. It's a super fun event, and it really integrates sustainability into the student culture, which is what the EcoRep program is all about. For Race to Zero Waste, we also have waste audits, which is where we take all of the waste from a day in a building, weigh it all, sort it the way it should have been, and weigh it again and see how well our campus is sorting, which sounds a little icky, but it's actually really, really fun, especially if you're, into sustainability, and it's a really eye-opening experience. We also, of course, have the Earth Day Fair, where we partner with all sorts of on-campus organizations to just celebrate Earth Day and help the campus, remember that it's a wonderful day. And right now we always call it Earth Month in the office because we are doing sustainability things all month long. Today we had a bouquet event where you could make bouquets out of recycled paper and flowers in one of the campus cafes. We've got tabling, we've got all sorts of things. And then what I would say is one of our biggest focuses is Project Move Out and Move In, which is where at the end of the year, whenever all of the students are moving out for the summer, we collect everything that they would have thrown away. So laundry hampers, like the plastic ones, those 3-tiered carts that are a big hit in the freshman dorms, a lot of those come to us. Hangers. I'm going to emphasize hangers a lot because whenever you're moving in and out of campus, they're a pain to move, and we have hundreds of them. And every single year, they all get picked up. And then we end up with a whole bunch again. So it really helps whenever you're moving in and out to just save the trip, because whenever you move in, all of that stuff that we collected at the end of the year, we open up the pods that we collect them in, and it's all free. So all of those hangers that you would have bought, free. those 3-tiered carts that you were looking for on Amazon or Target or one of those big stores. No, free. Super fun, really enjoy it. There are obviously some things that we don't collect, like bedding and mattress toppers. But we do collect unopened food, and that goes to the pantry on campus or communities who it would benefit more. It depends on what it is, kind of thing. But it is really one of the coolest events that we have, and I'm so excited to be a part of it every single year. This past year, we had a lot of vacuums. I got a TV out of it. Lots of mini fridges, lots of 3-tiered carts, lots of hangers. Hint, hint, nudge, nudge, wink, wink. No more. Yeah.
Can I just add, last year we collected 18 tons of items during move out, and then those all went right back into somebody's room in the fall. So we were able to keep all of that out of the landfill.
Yes, I was actually going to say that, but perfect. Which was crazy because we did not think it was that much, but super fun. We also got a bowling ball and lots of Halloween costumes. So it really, anything that you wouldn't even think you need, we've got it at Project Move Out, and it's just a super fun time. So. Outside of the EcoReps, we do have a wide variety of other organizations and clubs. So these 6 are not the only ones. They're just honestly the first ones that came to our minds whenever we were brainstorming this. We've got the Kogod Sustainability Club. So that's working with the business students, people who are looking into sustainable business. Sunrise Movement, which is pretty focused on advocacy. That's like a nationwide thing. And we have a chapter on campus. Wonk Trade, which I talked about earlier, which the other EcoRep leader actually is on the e-board for. So we work super closely with them, and that keeps a lot out of the landfill, and it's just so fun. They post little weekly outfits of what you could make from Wonk Trade, and I love it. It's in MGC, so it's centralized. We actually have our own bees on campus, so the Beekeeping Society in MGC on the 2nd floor. There are beehives, and the bees are super nice, super cool. The Beekeeping Society sells honey that's really good, especially if you're like me and you're from Texas, and I moved here and the allergies hit like crazy. So having some of the local honey from the Beekeeping Society actually made a big difference because it, exposes you to the allergens and stuff. Plant Futures is about plant-based eating and what's achievable for you, and Climate Reality is really just focusing in on like what the EcoReps do, education, like what's actually happening, what's really going on, what role do you play. And I would say our campus really does a good job of just integrating sustainability into the campus culture and making it just like second nature. So even if something, like we mentioned earlier, like I'm an international studies major with an education minor, none of my focuses are sustainability. They're on peace and conflict resolution, but I'm able to integrate sustainability into everything I do. Like, how is peacemaking sustainable? What aspects of sustainability go into that? And I think that goes for all of our clubs too, with just what can be sustainable with this. The EcoReps, maybe you have EcoReps who come volunteer and help you sort your waste. Or at the end of the day, our food recovery network group on campus comes and they pick up your leftover food from your event, and then they give it to communities who could use it. Just kind of like things like that, where you can have sustainability in anything. Other than direct sustainability clubs, we also have a lot of good ways to volunteer and get involved in your community. The first one that came to mind whenever I was making this was our community-based courses. I took one my freshman year that actually fulfilled my complex problems requirement, and a lot of them do. And these courses take you out into the community, or this urban gardening one takes you onto the AU community, and you rack up the volunteer hours, which can go towards the President's Volunteer Service Award, where you can get a medal and a signed certificate from the president for your contribution. On the left, this was where I was volunteering with Horton's kids. So for a class, Doing Better at Doing Good, we spent the class learning about DC and the DC community and how the history of it. And we volunteered tutoring students in Anacostia and just getting involved in their community. It was super fun. Built a lot of really wonderful relationships with the other teachers and students there. And this was their Earth Day event where we cleaned up the community and the kids got super into it. And it's so wonderful to watch a 7-year-old who you met a few months ago who was really shy, and now they're going up to people who they see and they're like, whoa, you cannot litter. Don't put that water bottle down. You need to recycle it. Because those 7-year-olds, they've got some sass and some attitude, and they will use it and make the world a better place. And it's really beautiful. And for urban and gardening, that's actually our community garden that we have on campus. That's fully student. Everything about it is student run, student taken care of. And one of our classes, you can actually work in the community garden and get credit for it, which I think is just super awesome. And a lot of classes have the option to add on 1 extra credit to your course, and then that integrates the community-based aspect of it. So maybe you're tutoring, teaching, working in the community garden, doing community cleanups, anything to get you out there. And sustainability is a lot bigger than recycling, because sustainability, climate change, all these things, it affects different populations in different ways. So helping communities based on what they need, and so what the DC community needs, what students need, what different areas of DC need, that is all within sustainability, even if it doesn't feel like it, because you're not, wearing a green shirt and recycling. It all ties back into sustainability. I also want to talk about our location, just because, as I've mentioned before, like a true Texan, I'll mention it a million times more probably. A lot of students, like, we all come from different areas. This is an international campus, so people from across the globe, across the country, all of it, everyone comes from a different background. And I would say that DC is it Rhapsody, please, I'm so sorry. DC is a wonderful place to be to learn about sustainability. We are actually part of the DC College and University Sustainability Pledge, which is just where all the universities signed a thing with the mayor saying, we're going to be sustainable and we're going to do our part in keeping DC a sustainable place. And one of the ways we do that is meeting with these other universities, their staff, their students, talking about what's working, what's not. This was this year's student summit at GW. The picture I had in a couple slides ago was whenever we hosted at AU. And just a few weeks ago, we were at GW's campus and we got to learn about everything that they were doing. And it's such a fun experience, because in this picture, for instance, we've got EcoReps from other universities. We've got grad students from other universities. We have people who are about to graduate. We had a freshman who is working on researching how you can turn plant matter into batteries or regrow places after wildfires. It is truly, I learned so much that I never thought I would learn, and met so many wonderful people. And you really get to see that the impacts that we're making are way bigger than us, and we truly are making a difference. And it's so nice to have that encouraging area of DC, coming from somewhere where I was in a very rural area, so we obviously had home level compost, but recycling compost, that wasn't really the thing. So now coming to an area where sustainability is just the expectation, and this is what we're going to do, has been really, really awesome and makes a major difference in the student population. And then, since this is a family webinar, just wanted to throw in, how can you as a family member support sustainability, especially as your students are learning all of these things and are getting exposed to these different levels of sustainability. How can you be an active member in that, which can really be broken down to encouraging, practicing, and advocating. So encouraging the people around you and your family members to conserve your resources, reduce your waste, switch from a plastic water bottle to a reusable one. We also say practicing it, so minimizing your waste by doing just that, composting rather than throwing things in the landfill, avoiding those single-use plastics. At AU, every first-year student during their orientation actually gets a reusable water bottle So we make it super easy to avoid those single-use plastics. So practicing that at home can really keep it consistent. And then of course, advocating, because sometimes it feels like you're not doing as much as you are, and advocating and engaging with your community is really a game changer. Like I was mentioning with being in DC and seeing these other students, it's very empowering, and it can be the same way at home, because hearing us talk about sustainability in DC may not feel like it applies to you, but whenever you talk to your local community and see what your community's interested in, what your community needs, it feels so much more powerful, and it really gives you the community to make a difference. So engaging with local programs like recycling programs, farmers markets, all sorts of little things that don't seem like a big deal can really just make your life a little bit more sustainable, and also help you engage in these conversations whenever your student comes home and is like, no, you need to recycle that. And you're like, whoa, because that's how my mom reacted whenever I came home and I was telling her about everything that needed to be recycled. And she was like, you gotta slow down, because everywhere's different. In DC and at AU, we accept recycling 1 through 7 versus just over the border to Maryland. Some of the locations in Maryland only accept 1, 2, and 5. So it really can make a difference just across communities. Yeah, so if anyone has any questions for me or Megan or anything, feel free to raise your hand and ask, or leave something in the chat.
And I will share one last thing, just to, we mentioned a lot of opportunities that are available for students, but my office and the Zero Waste office both post any available internships over the summer for fall opportunities. They'll be available in both offices coming this fall. And then the EcoReps program follows a similar timeline, where towards the end of the summer and the start of the year, we have opportunities for students to sign up to be an EcoRep and volunteer about 2 hours a week with our office to help spread the news.
Both offices also have positions for federal work study and non-federal work study positions, which is really awesome. I know I've heard a lot of students recently saying that all of the positions are federal work study or none of them are. And it's like, there's like this one or other. In our office, we have both. I'm federal work study. One of my other peers are not. It's very like flexible, and it's really, really helpful. Yeah.
I think that there aren't any questions because Megan and Brindley, you answered all of the questions that were submitted in advance. You covered so many areas. There were questions about the AU garden, community garden. There were questions about how AU handles food waste and food sustainability. There were questions about how students can get engaged. So I think you covered all of those areas. That's why we don't have any new questions.
Well, thank you so much for this opportunity to share, and I really appreciate you all joining us tonight.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Thank you so much. And we have to say congratulations to Brindley for being a senior and closing in, but leaving her mark on AU and all things she's doing. She's not done yet. But thank you, Megan. Thank you, Brindley. Thank you, everyone, for joining us this evening. We wish you well. Talk to your students about sustainability. Ask them what they've noticed and what they've engaged in while on campus, and share a few tidbits with them. Did they know that there are bees on campus? This is a good question. So thank you all. I'm going to sign off and end our meeting, and I wish everyone a wonderful evening. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.